Freezing rain settling in the treetops, not really sticking to much else of anything. The surfaces are just a little bit too warm here. The afternoon surface map does not really show much change. In fact, I had to switch over to Aviation Weather Center to see if we weren't accidentally using yesterday's data. The front has moved south a little bit, but the map looks quite a bit like yesterday. There is a little bit more cold air coming down through the northern plains on the heels of this 1045 millibar high in southern Alberta. The coldest parts of the air mass located in Saskatchewan, where we have widespread minus 20s, and the coldest reading looks like it's around southern Saskatchewan with minus 26. And then taking a look up in the northern latitudes, there's actually warm air in the high Arctic. Temperatures of around minus 10 may not sound that warm, but it is much warmer than what we've seen up there last week, and this is due to a large volume of air that was over the northeastern U.S. that's recirculated around that polar vortex and is now coming into northern Saskatchewan. So, ironically, yeah, we've got a warm front pointing the wrong way. In fact, two of them pointing the wrong way, and that's because the air mass is colder down to the south. In the western Arctic, that's where we were seeing very cold temperatures a few days ago, minus 40s, minus 50s are gone, and in the wake, some milder weather. Coldest temperatures up there look to be just north of Whitehorse, minus 21. And even up in Alaska, we're getting some very warm downslope conditions, west of Fairbanks with 31 there. And as you can see, the pressure gradient favors kind of an onshore flow there. Now, where we do have some weather going on is in the Pacific Northwest. You can see that very strong pressure gradient from the Bitterroot Range all the way up to Coastal Range. And we've got winds coming out of the northeast at Vancouver and Seattle. And that's never a good sign this time of year. That tends to bring wintry weather and sometimes snow to the Puget Sound area. And with this warm front here, you can see kind of a southerly gradient setting up. That's probably going to put that part of the U.S. in a warm air advection pattern, so we're going to look for things to deteriorate in that region. Let's take a look around the U.S. region by region, starting with the southeast, where we have a very mild air mass in place. There's the current conditions. Just looking at this, you would not know that an Arctic blast is underway out to the east. 74 at Phoenix this hour, 68 at Vegas, and in the Los Angeles area as high as 66 degrees. The visible satellite imagery shows those fair skies, and out to the west, a major weather system coming on shore. There it is. That's a baroclinic system. Back behind it, you can see the cold air cumulus offshore, associated with the cold air advection out there, and the large band of cloudiness that you see in the northern part of the state, right around this area, that's associated with the warm air advection wing of this system. And switching over to the water vapor imagery, wow. You can see it right there, the occlusion and the cold core low located right there. And further out ahead of it, the main baroclinic elements. Cold front around that area right there, maybe a little bit ahead, and a warm front associated with this large band of mid and upper level cloud. So that's our preliminary placement for those fronts. So where's the front exactly? We can look at the desert areas. Winnemucca there, 52 with a southwest wind, and further north, mid-30s around Burns, Oregon. And northeast flow there, so that's a difference in a lot of the elements. It gets a little more difficult as you go further west, but we can see slight northerly flow and cool conditions around Medford. A lot of rain, which we would assume to be north of a frontal boundary. So I would be inclined to place that front maybe through here and then trailing up off the coast, off Oregon, somewhat like that right there. So that's what we have for the GFS thickness and pressure. You can see the very strong thermal and pressure gradient anywhere from Boise to Portland up northward. So we're going to know that the front is going to be somewhere south of that. Now, we've already gone through the surface analysis, and we figured it's going to be running somewhat like that right there. So instead of putting it up here near that gradient, we're going to keep it just a little bit further south. And I suspect what's happening is we've got the cold front running about like that, and the warm front kind of like that, and then an occlusion coming northwest into that storm. So enough talk, let's see how things unfold. Weather system coming in from the coast, so things are going to get worse. We're going to get that upper level lift. We're going to get convergence of the wind field, and as you can see, things go rapidly downhill. Looks like snow east of the Cascades and mixed precip around Salem and Portland. And then it becomes mostly snow up in the inland areas of Washington. So this is looking about 7 or 8 o'clock this evening, and things slowly start to improve overnight. But you can see the main system moving eastward through the Great Basin area, and we're going to see things get worse out to the east. Just because of the fact that this moved from here around 6 p.m. all the way to here around dawn, that tells us that the system is rooted in the mid-levels. And there it is around early evening, a very compact system. The main cold core low back to the east, the main area of upper level lift in this area right here, and that's going to move quickly to the east. So by dawn, there it goes. It's already moving into Utah, southern Idaho, and all the way down to northern Arizona. And it looks like the main cold core low is moving towards the southeast. So that's going to be heading for Texas, Kansas, and Oklahoma, and you can see that low digging in there pretty good. Some compact lift there in southern Arizona. I don't know if they're going to get any snow there. Nah, it's actually too warm down there. But there may be some convective showers as it passes by. The main cold air mass is lurking right here, so by sometime Saturday we're going to see that interaction with the air mass start to begin. So there it is. That's going to cross over the air mass Saturday night into Sunday, and you can see out to the west another feature digging in. And this is more of a channel jet, but this could evolve into more of a shortwave disturbance. So what we're seeing right here, most of the lift is going to be focused in that left front quadrant area, but it still has potential to dig as it goes into the base of this large long wave trough. So remember, we're looking at Saturday night here. So let's bring it forward into Sunday. And yeah, there it is digging. Pretty large field of upper level ascent over New Mexico and West Texas during the day on Sunday. And it continues digging into South Texas. And now we have an advection lobe right there. The main field of lift right in there. So that's going to be working on the air mass Sunday night into Monday and producing a mixed bag of precip, some widespread snow, and some rain down to the south. So you name it, it's probably happening in Texas, maybe even a little bit of thunder. So that'll move through overnight, and then it will be out of the area by Monday. And at this point, it's mostly going to be affecting the Memphis, Little Rock, and Illinois area. Here's another little wave coming in behind it, so things aren't really done. And finally, I think at this point, we're starting to get a little bit of neutral to downward motion late Monday. And that's going to be when things are going to get really cold across Texas. So by Monday, the jet is running about like that. And yeah, it looks like our polar vortex is gone. Where did that go? Well, there it is right now. Kind of spinning, and then you can see it start ejecting towards the east on Sunday. And then we get into more of a seasonal type pattern that we typically see in February. So let's talk a little bit about the forecast uncertainty. in this part of the country. The big question is the snow. That's going to happen over the weekend, and that's going to be really a key feature to how cold it's going to get. Well, I've brought up the heights and vorticity chart for Sunday. This is when most of the lift is going to be coming across Texas. There's the lift and there's the trough. Let's back this up and see where the trough is right now. Okay, there it goes backwards into the Pacific. And we pick that up, and I think it's going to be this little trough right there, coming down the backside of this wave. And there it goes, yeah. Cuts right through that ridge, goes into California, and then down into Texas. So we're talking about this little feature right here that's going to be affecting Texas in several days. How well do you think the models are sampling that? There's pretty much no radiosonde data in that area. Now, the models do a very good job analyzing what data there is, and it kind of goes off of some of the land observations and helps evolve those features as they move off the coast. But still, to me, it's just amazing that these models even work in the first place. So until this becomes well sampled, we're not really going to have an accurate picture on what that's going to do early next week. When that trough moves into the southwest U.S. and Texas, it's going to lay down a snowfield. That's currently what the GFS has. And that, in turn, determines where the extreme cold is going to be, because the snow forms an insulative blanket between the ground and the air mass. So this tends to very closely follow the snow track. You can see up here, extremely cold, and then down here, just moderately cold. Now, of course, some of it will start spreading south. However, that snow field determines where the cold air is being produced. And as many of you know, snowfall is a very difficult thing for models to forecast more than 5 days in advance. This is the snowfall that was being forecast over the weekend into early next week by the Monday evening GFS model. And as the model runs forward, look how they changed. You can see at one point they pushed heavy snow. This was Wednesday morning's run. They pushed this heavy snow band down into Dallas, 14 inches. Obviously, that was a little bit too extreme. And it kept quite a bit of snow over North Texas. And then with last night's run, it backed it up to the north. And with the very latest run, it's even shrunk that snowfield down a little bit more. Now, remember yesterday we were saying to never forecast extreme weather unless you're certain. And indeed, we've seen the models back off from that scenario. And I would not really be surprised to see the runs going into this weekend getting rid of that also. I mean, it may not happen, but, that's kind of been the trend. And here you can see the effect of that flip-flopping. That's when it was laying down that heavy snow over Texas, and it produced those crazy lows of -4 to -8 and even colder. And then last night it backed off on that snow, and you can see that temperatures start to shrink to the north. And that's where we're at right now for the forecast. The zero line running through the DFW area, and most likely that's going to continue moving north. It could end up just sitting there. However, we're now starting to see the models kind of getting into a more reasonable prognosis of what's going to happen. But still, this is some very bitter weather. Now, the European model does tend to be the voice of reason. It tends to be pretty accurate in this part of the country. So let's see what it's forecasting. Back during last weekend, you can see it did not really expect anything south of I-40, but as we got into Monday and Tuesday, it built up that snowstorm and cold wave. And you can see where it really laid in those heavy snow amounts on Wednesday, and it's backed off a little bit on that. In the latest run, it's keeping a little bit of snow throughout Texas, even all the way down to I-10. So, yeah, this poses a lot of questions. What kind of scenario are we going to be looking at? Well, the last few runs built in that cold wave. You can see the zero line through the DFW area, and the latest frame backs off a little bit on that zero line, and it has it just north of the GFS position. So definitely still going very, very cold up in Oklahoma, but this is still quite a cold outbreak. And we'll just have to wait until the weekend to see exactly what we're looking at. So let's run through the national weather using the European model. We're going to see that system there in Oregon moving out into the Rockies on Friday. That'll be kind of weaker than what we're expecting later during the weekend, but it will cross over that cold dome and produce some clouds and a little bit of rain, and then eventually interact with that Gulf Coast system. Then for Sunday, this is the big one. Going to be kind of stormy there in Colorado. You can see that upslope flow developing there. Places like Lyman, Trinidad, La Junta getting some snow, and eventually that spreads into Texas overnight Sunday into Monday. The GFS was going for a little bit heavier forcing around the Red River into Oklahoma. And of course the snow up there will be drier with those colder temperatures, and that should add to the depth in that area. Things continue moving eastward. Kind of a mixed precip scenario there for Tennessee and Kentucky. Mostly rain down in the southeast U.S. and snow up in the Midwest. Then as it approaches the Atlantic coast and interacts with some of that moisture near the Gulf Stream, we get some of that strong overrunning warm air advection snow in upstate New York, and mixed precip down there in New Jersey and Delaware. And then things start to quiet down a little bit around Wednesday. However, this next system coming into Texas is of concern. Obviously, we don't have a good handle on what's happening later next week, but there's the potential for more winter weather and more cold air production. So that's just a big old unknown at this point. And look at that, it's building in another similar system tracking up into the northeast U.S. 3 days after the previous one. However, this one looks like it involves a little bit more warm air moving up into New York. But, you know, this is really far out, so we're not going to worry too much about that. But after that, we should see a moderating trend, and we can breathe easy for a little bit, I would think. And that'll do it for this edition of Forecast Lab. Fred Reamer asks, where do we get the GO satellite imagery for the videos? That comes from College DuPage. They've got some of the best satellite imagery on the internet. James Eskrich says, us Air Force guys need to stick together. Yes, definitely. And he's hoping for others to join the Patreon group. And here's how. If you want to become a Patreon supporter and help keep this program on the air, there's the link. You'll get signed up and you will automatically get the private Monday videos. So, what a deal. Okay, until tomorrow, take care and stay warm. Bye-bye.